Hello. Can you hear me, Darren? I think you're muted. One sec. I
Hello?
can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, good. Very good. Yeah.
Oh,
Do you guys have conference rooms in Belfast?
yeah, we do, I think. I'm
Okay.
not too
Well,
sure. I haven't used one
yeah.
yet, though.
If we do another one of these sessions, maybe we'll reserve a conference room at that time so you can have a phone because the audio via the computer isn't so great.
Yeah, I can hear you okay, though, today,
Good,
so.
good. I'm just going to get headphones because it's my speaker isn't all that great. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Let's see if this works any better. Test, test. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can
Oh,
hear you.
good, good. Well, how's everything in Belfast this morning?
Yeah, it's good. I was, spent most of my day getting access to the VMs, so just testing to make sure I have access to them all.
Oh, good, good.
So,
So I don't have a really involved syllabus this morning, but I just thought I would use GoToMeeting to show you how we deal with feedback and accessing the sites, and then take you through the process of moving a paper manually. Okay?
yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, what I did earlier this morning was I took a paper and I put it into a position where the journal might contact us and say, hey, could you move this paper for me? So what I'm about to show you is sort of the standard operating procedure. If we're in email and we get a message from someone that says, hey, this is the MSID, I'd like it to be moved into a special queue. And usually, they would sometimes they forget to give us the MSID, and then we politely say, we'd be happy to help you. Can you give us the manuscript in question? Sometimes they just, naturally forget. But what I'm going to do is go over to the All Sites page. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to go over to the All Sites page. And this is broken out into the dev links and the prod links for all our sites.
Yep.
We also have, I think we're going to have to put you in the development team there. So I'm going to look for the genetics site. There we are. So I'm going to go over to the dev version of the site. I'm not going to, move anything in the prod area.
Yep.
And so this is genetics. And say they contacted us and they gave us this MSID to move, and they want to move it from, say, the holding queue back into the new papers queue. So what we usually do is go in as the staff, because we all have staff roles in all the prod sites, so we can
Yep.
see exactly what they see. And I take the MSID and I search for it. And sure enough, it's in the holding queue. And they've written in and they've said, could you move it out of holding and put it into the new papers queue? So let's just go over here and go to the queue summary. and just show you where they are. We're in the staff queues, and this paper is in the holding queue area, and they want to put it over into the new papers queue. So what we do is we we look to see we want to see what the criteria for the papers that are in the queue where we want to move it to. So we'll go to that queue, and in the URL here, there are ways that you can sort of see where a paper is by just looking at the workflow document, the XML. But sometimes I don't like to rely on that, because there can be some queues that have the same display name, but the way to really identify the queue they want you to move it to is actually go to that queue. And then in the URL, the queue name is right here. So I know that the queue name for that queue is staff new, okay? So I'm going to copy the queue name, and now I'm going to go over and open up the rule set, the XML for this site. So I think you're going to be using TextEdit or another Windows tool, but I'm using BBEdit. And I'm going to go over to the XML, which is in username, projects, MSTR, XML examples. And I'm going to open up the genetics rule set. So this is the workflow document. And I realized yesterday, I think you asked me if this is on Git, and I said no. I was like, well, it is in Git, but we don't access it in Git to do the edits. We go actually into the XML folder. And I'm going to search for staff new. And there it is. So the display name is new papers. And the criteria is listed right here. So there's a name of the queue and there's a criteria. So you use the queue name to find the criteria. And then once you find the criteria, you can go look at it. And I'm going to just hit Command G. Okay, so the criteria def. This is all the criteria that will put those papers into that queue. So the manuscript status must be new, and there were only two things. There were only two Booleans here that will prevent it from being in the new queue if the status is new, and one is holding, the fixed data is holding, or fixed data is in consult. So that tells me that all I need to do is make sure that that manuscript status is set to new, and make sure that neither of these criteria are satisfied. So I can't have it in holding, and I can't have it in consult. Okay, so now that I know that, I am going to go back to the web here. I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to go to the maintenance area. So each site has a maintenance area that's only available for HighWire staff, where we can go in and change the data that's set on any manuscript. And how you access that is you just take the URL for either dev or prod, and you append HWMate in lowercase and HWMate in upper. And this is going to take you to the journal mate area. So on this page, we have a number of things that are available to staff members, BenchPress staff. You can go in and see what the conversion data is for any paper that's been submitted, and if there's an issue with a successful conversion, we can look at the log files. We can reload the workflow files. We can reload the ref tables, the SQL. And in order to do that, you would go in and choose the journal that was in question, and then you can act on that journal. Now, we don't have to do that in order to change the fixed data on this manuscript. What we're going to do is we're going to go down to this area right here, edit manuscript status flags. And all you need to do is we'll take that MSID, genetics MSID, and put it here, and then choose the journal in question. If you choose the wrong one and you try to do it, you'll get an error.
Yeah.
So you're just going to go for genetics. And let's go over and see. Okay, so this is all the flags and the fixed data that's set on this paper. So the status is new, so we know we have the right status. These are all the different statuses that you can find in this journal. So it's at the right status, but there must be one of those settings that is set that's keeping it out of the queue, and there it is, holding. So if we go back in here, holding, if this holding is set to true, then it's going to not show up in the new queue. So what I want to do is go back, and what I usually do is, because there are a lot of flags on this paper, and what I usually do is, if I'm looking for something, I will copy and paste to search for it. So let's say, so in consult isn't set, so we know that's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And there's holding. So when we want to get rid of this flag, we check the checkbox, we remove the flag, and then we go down to the bottom.
See, by removing the flag, like the deleting true, does that just send it to false?
It sets it to null, actually. It nullifies it. It just removes it. So it doesn't set it to false or to any other. It just removes the true flag from it.
Okay.
And then usually we'll put in here, whatever you put in this box actually will show up to the customer. So keep it professional. Don't give them too much information that they don't really need to know. Usually the etiquette for this comment is, moving manuscript per email. Okay, and make changes. Then you'll get a success. Okay, successfully changed that. And now I'm going to go back in and look for this MSID. And if we've done it properly, it should no longer be in the holding queue, but now it's in new papers. Okay?
Yeah.
So it moved. And if I go into the full MS info area, this tracks all the information for the paper, and it was moved to holding, and over here, notes and comments, move manuscript per email. So that's what we usually do to manually move papers. But question?
No, see, when you sent did you send an email? Would that have sent an email to the publisher?
No, it won't. No. What we then would do is go back to the request that they've sent to us in email and say, thanks for your email. This manuscript is now in the queue you referenced,
Okay.
and then you'd finish it up.
Okay. D is this being recorded? This
I did record it, so if you want to review it,
so
I'll give you the review.
be good to just rewatch everything, go over it all.
Yeah.
Uh, no, it seems straightforward enough. Doesn't seem too complex. But is this the way you do? So you used to do everything on through the website.
What was it? Sorry, Darren. What was the question?
So see if you used to any changes to queues or revisions, it all goes through. You used to do it all through the maintenance options.
So yeah. So for now we'll go back to that page. For manually moving papers, we do it in the maintenance area, um,
Hmm.
and that doesn't change the code at all. That's basically just changing the flags and the fixed data that sets on manuscripts. Any changes that we would do to the workflow, we'd actually do by going in and editing the code.
Yeah.
Uh, so, but yeah, let's go back to the maintenance area because there are some other areas there that are helpful and we use a lot. So when we make a change to the XML, we run a script that's called Go Work, and we can give you some more information about that. But the Go Work uh, script takes the code that we've been working on in our projects area, and then it moves it over to the live site in dev. So, you make some edits in your code and then you work on, and then you use the go work command and it makes it active in the development site.
Okay.
And so after you have executed that script, the go work script, then what you need to do is reload the workflow files here to make them actually active. So that's what that is. If you make any changes to the SQL after you have run the scripts on the SQL files, you reload them here, and that will make them active in the dev site. If you want to test the criteria after you've made some changes, you can run it this way, and then it'll show you if there are any conflicts with your criteria.
Okay.
Sometimes it actually happened this morning. I don't know if you saw that in my brief conversation with Evelyn. Uh,
I see.
yeah, that paper that seemed to get stuck in conversion. What I did was I went into the maintenance area and I reloaded the manuscript, and it fixed itself. I don't know offhand exactly why that happened, but I do know that it can happen sometimes in conversion where the status of that manuscript didn't get changed to converted, and so it wasn't showing up in the proper queue. And sometimes you can also reload a person if their profile data is out of whack. Everyone in the system in BenchPress for each of the journals will have their own user ID. So if you were to look up someone, their user ID could be entered in here, and you could reload a person. And I can show you where you would find that. So let's just see, Black. And I'm going to search for person. And here's Kevin John Black. And here's my user ID. So that's where you can find the user ID. You'd also search it if you were, using a SQL and, doing a search for the person. But if you want to see it in the interface, this is where you would see it.
Okay.
Okay. Some files that you will edit, what we call the comp files, sometimes they need to be reloaded. They will automatically be reloaded if you do a restart to the server. So if you do a global restart, the system automatically will refresh the comp files. But if you just needed to do it here, without restarting. You can you can reload all the comp files from this interface. And then if you wanted to find more information, sometimes we'll get a request that says, hey, I'm having a problem with this user. Can you find out, maybe there's a duplicate user in the system, or if you need to research any problems, we have global person IDs. So let's see, AJ Black. So let me, oops, maybe I'm not in the system there. I may have to use my HighWire dot. And so this shows me all the journals and IDs that I have for all the different journals. So this is a way that you can research if there is an issue with a person in different journals. Because as you probably know, BenchPress has a global and local user database, meaning that with one username and password, any user can log into a BenchPress site. So, you could be on genetics in one journal and on JBC in another journal, and I can use the same username and login and password to log into all the sites. But then each journal can control the roles that you have and the profile data that you have. So while I'm in all these different journals and I can log in, I might have different expertise lists, different contact information. I could be possibly an editor on one site and a staff member on another. So this is just showing you all the different sites that I'm registered in.
So see when in production, you can log in using your user ID for all the journals, but then you still have to you have to register an account with them.
Right. You didn't have to fill out a profile account. Yeah. Also, just to let you know, the dev database and the prod database are two different accounts, meaning that if my dev password is fuzzy button, my prod password would be different. So that's the only thing. And then dev has one user database and prod has a different one. So sometimes, when we're working with customers and we provide them the dev sites for them to review content, new contents or new features, they forget that it's a different password. They can use the same email address, but the passwords from dev and prod will be different. They could be the same, but they're using a different database.
Okay. Do you assign them with user IDs and passwords, or do they?
We use emails. Email is the standard username because that is used for any of the contacts and any of the correspondence within the system. So usernames are always email addresses, and then we do give the ability for the journals to create passwords or randomly generate them or send them to the customers, and I'll show you where that happens. Edit the status manuscript. This is what we did before. Oh, there's also fixed data and statuses for reviewers. So let me show you a little bit about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the staff area, and I'm going to go to reviews in progress. Let me see if I've got a good example for you. Okay. So I am going to just copy this MSID. I'm going to put it just over here because I want to use it again later. So here I'm listed as a reviewer, and my status is new, meaning that I've been added to this manuscript in the record, but I haven't been solicited. I haven't. The journal hasn't sent out a request. Hey, Kevin John Black, do you want to review this manuscript? I'm just
Okay.
been suggested for this paper. And what I'm going to do now is, from the staff role, I'm going to say, let's go in, and I'm just going to go find this paper. That wasn't an option there. Sometimes when we're using older papers, I don't trust the status of them because so many things have happened to them. But let's say new. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to solicit myself with a 7-day review cycle. So I choose this action here. Then I scroll down, make sure this reviewer actions button is checked, then act on this. It always gives me a confirmation. So I'm going to solicit, complete the action. Now I'm going to go over here and look at this paper. And now, instead of being new, I've been solicited. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to switch over to my reviewer role. And now I'm a reviewer. And I've got one request for review. So I'm going to go in here and I could look at the abstract. I can accept the review. I can decline it, or I can email the journal saying that I have a conflict of interest. You'll see that abbreviated as COI. So I'm going to accept this assignment. I'm going to complete the action. And now the paper is in my active reviews. So I've said, yes, I want to review this paper. And it's in my active reviews. And here it is. It's this one right here. So I can either withdraw my review, I can email the editorial staff, or I can go in and submit my review. And so here I go, reviewers' comments. These comments would go straight to the author.
Mm-hmm.
And we also had standard to have comments to the editor. These are never shared with the author, but the reviewer can say, hey, this paper, I don't know, I'm not sure he's such a great investigator. I think you should reject the paper, and then this information would never go to the author themselves, but the editorial staff and the editors would see it. Okay. And then there's form information, and this is different for all the different journals. We give them the opportunity to ask different questions in here. Some of this information is required for them to answer. Some is optional. So I'm just going to go in here. And okay, so what I wanted to show you is this happens sometimes when the journals contact us and they want us to manually change the reviewer status. So what I'm going to do is save my work in progress. Okay, it's saved. So if I go back and I search for that manuscript, you'll notice that I've accepted. I have saved, so it's not finished yet, it's just accepted. And I'm going to go into the full manuscript information, and this tracks everything that happens with it. So create review saved. Okay. So sometimes the journal will go in and say, you know, this reviewer isn't around, but I know that they're finished, but they haven't completed their review, and it's holding up the paper. Could you go in and manually change the status of this review? And that's where we would do it in the maintenance area. So what I want to do is go to the maintenance area, and I need to know the MSID, and I know it's version 1 of the paper, and we know my manuscript, my user ID.
How do you find out the version?
I figured out the version by looking at the paper. When I was here looking at it, it'll show you right here: first submission, second submission, third submission. So I knew it was version 1. Okay.
Okay.
And here's my reviewer ID. And then I choose genetics. There we go. So this, as opposed to all the information that was associated with the manuscript, this is all the information associated with the reviewer on that manuscript. So my status is at accept, and all the questions that I answered are saved as fixed data here. So the journal hypothetically said, can you go in and submit it? We could go in and choose complete. Again, make changes, successful. Now if we go back and look, oops, you'll find yourself cutting and pasting a lot to remember things. Okay, whoops. Okay, so let's go into full MS info and we'll see what changes we did. So here I am, Kevin John Black. Now I'm not saved anymore, I'm completed, and the information that's put up here shows setting to complete. So that's where you would be able to do that, to go in and change the review statuses. It doesn't happen a lot, but it happens often enough that it's useful. Sometimes we need to deactivate a user, and the journals may have some problems because if there's activity that is current and active, say a person has an outstanding review, the tools that we give the journals to deactivate someone, they can't if there's some outstanding activity, so we can force deactivate users here. Actually, I never use this area. Completely delete a manuscript. There are very few times where we really want to delete a manuscript from the historical database. There are delete actions all throughout the journals, but what that delete is it's just removing it from the active queues. If you knew the MSID, if a staff member from the interface deleted a manuscript or an author chose to delete the manuscript, it removes it from the active queues, but we don't delete any of the metadata. So you could still go in and search for it to find out the historical information. This delete actually deletes it from BenchPress. So if we use this delete and you search for the MSID, it wouldn't be in the system anywhere. And we hesitate from doing that for customers because if hypothetically something happened down the road where someone said, I submitted a paper back in 2002, blah, 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 and I don't know what happened to it, and your editor said the paper was awful, and I've got a legal case. If you delete it, we have no history. And we only have really one customer that does that, and it's due to a fact that an agreement we made years ago, and we just haven't changed it. If you see requests that come into the request area from EJCTS, we actually do delete the papers there. Later today, I have 3 papers that I'll be deleting. But so that's what that delete is. You don't usually do it. We try not to recommend it, but sometimes we do it for certain people. You can find out the SQL ref data for different manuscripts here. And this dump the email cache and reload from comp, really new because we're moving over to SendGrid. I never used this, but I think this is something Kathy put in recently.
Okay.
And then you can control the debug, the different levels of verbosity for the logs here. Don't usually touch this unless you're trying to really research an issue. Sometimes when you're reviewing the log files, if you need more granularity for what's causing an error, you can increase the verbosity of the logs to get more information.
Yeah.
So that's the main area. Did I hear now? Did you get an account on the machines? Have you been able to log in yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I haven't been able to log in the Prod Tool 05, but maybe it's because I have a different password.
Oh, well, you're what machines have you been given access to?
All the HWBP ones,
Okay,
and then BP image
okay,
analysis dev as well.
okay. That's it. You should be the same username and password, but we'll find out. What you need to do to get into the prod server there. And did you get a chance to copy over someone's C-Shree, the alias yet?
No.
Okay. That maybe KK's or Dimitri's might have a good list of aliases. Let's see. More. So just aliases you'll find really helpful. There's the Go Work alias, the different paths. So when I come in here and my stuff, and that will automatically put me into everything that's in Git. And so you can do your Git status, Git pulls from here. This is where all the XML is.
Okay.
So these are all the journals that for the XML, and then the ref data. All the SQL is. This is the manuscript SQL for the fixed data, and also the category data. And you probably won't be editing this for a while, but this is where it lives. And let's see, the comp files. These are when I said that sometimes you have to reload the conf area. These are all the configuration files. This area, lots of times you'll be editing the prod production.conf and the prodjournals.conf. That controls a lot of the FTP settings. So when we're doing downstream, if we're sending anything to third parties, Senveo, TechSet, all the information is in there. And there are properties files, but you've probably seen the techniques pages. Have you seen the techniques pages yet?
Not too sure.
Okay. So BenchPress sites. So in the all sites page up here in techniques, we have it's kind of like the cookbook that we were talking about yesterday. Is that if you want to install an optional feature or a standard feature, these are the instructions on how to do it. So installing FTP to vendor, and it'll just go through all the steps you take in order to add a feature in here, along with examples. Okay. And so if you were doing some other optional features, so this is FTP, publish ahead of print. There's a lot of glossary that you'll probably be learning for the first time. Publish ahead of print is what we do in BenchPress when a customer installs this feature. It allows them to take accepted manuscripts and send them over to HighWire before they're actually published in print or delivered from print vendors. And what that means is they get sent over to HighWire, the abstract and the metadata gets added to the HighWire site so people can actually see it up on their journal area even before it's printed. And then what happens is when it's printed, if it's online only, we send the information, the peer-reviewed PDF, to a typesetter, and they make a pretty PDF. They do some, electronic typesetting, and then they deliver it to HighWire and make it look a nice, readable version. So that's how all the information for installing publish ahead of print. But pretty much any feature that we have in BenchPress, the instructions, what you need to do, is housed on the techniques page. There are some things that sometimes we have to figure out how it was installed just by looking at the code where it was installed previously. We have a lot of custom installations, but most of all, anything that we have productized and we offer to customers to install, it should be in the techniques page. We also have the BP wiki page, developers index, systems index, and the developers index, just some tips and tricks for tools, how to run log files, how to restart servers, migration information. So that's all over here. So you'll find this really handy to read over, and if you haven't seen it already, that I think you could take a couple of days just reviewing all that information.
Yeah, looks good. A lot of info.
Yeah. So that's all I had today, but I wanted to make myself available for more questions. I think that maybe once you get a little bit more under your belt, we'll take you through, making a change to some code, go working it, refreshing the workflow files, and then how you would actually see the changes online. Okay.
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, feel free to let me know if you have any other questions, and we'll try to do another schedule. I would think that you should have access to all the servers, and I'll check in on that.
Okay, I think I do. See the MS IDs.
Mm-hmm.
It says genetics and then the year and then it's an ID.
Yeah.
Is the ID the only part of that is actually like? Could you search just using the ID, or does it have to have the full?
You can. They shouldn't. Sometimes you actually might find two IDs that are the same, but they'd be for different years, so they would list both of them. Yeah. So you can actually go in here and just use the number. So let's just take this one, and we'll switch to a different role. And it finds it.
Okay.
The other thing that might be confusing is that, for most people are either going to be an author or a reviewer. We actually give them both roles. So everyone in the system, whether you're a staff member or an editor, you will automatically have the author and reviewer links and roles. And what most people wouldn't see this tracking area link. So if I'm an author, the only thing that I would see up here, I would have access to this area and I would have access to that area. I wouldn't have access to the tracking area. Sometimes it's confusing. Most people just see these two sites, but if you're an editor or a staff member or have a role with more privileges, you have the tracking area. And then once you click in there, then you would have all these other roles. And these roles are also just particular to genetics. Most standard roles would be a staff role and then a different editor roles. So you would have a senior editor, associate editor, but those are all dependent upon the journal and how they do business.
Okay. The ones we only focus on is journal staff or an editor, is it? Staff, editorial staff.
Well, the people that we support by answering mail is staff. We route everything through each journal's staff, so we don't do end user support for, say, an author. Authors don't usually contact us. Reviewers don't usually contact us. Or editors, they're supposed to contact the staff members for each of those journals. And if the staff members can't answer their questions or problems, then the staff members contact BenchPress, and then we help them out, and then we respond usually just to the staff member, and they respond to the end user. It just keeps it more professional because we don't necessarily know the editorial processes that the journal likes to communicate to their end users, because really our customers aren't the authors, reviewers, or editors. Our customers are the journal, the staff. So we handle communication with the staff members. The staff customers would be the editors, the reviewers, and the authors. So we just manage all communication using the staff members as the central locus. Make sense?
Yep. Sounds all making sense.
Good. Yeah, it's going to be a lot. This is my 9th year, and I think that it took me almost 9 months to get up to speed because there's just so much background information and a lot of things that are very particular to BenchPress.
I'm trying to cram everything.
Yeah, take a lot of notes, and don't feel bad if you feel like you have to ask a lot of questions, because there are a lot of questions out there.
Yeah, I had a few questions, but this you've sort of talked through them, and you give me answers with it.
Good.
You asked the questions, so.
And I'm also in early, so which is good. I usually get in 6:30, 7 o'clock. So if you ever want to run something by me, feel free to hit me up early.
That's kind of a problem.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna start looking at the techniques and all the kind of documentation on there, and then
great.
Get a few more questions.
Fantastic.
So, the plan.
Okay, and I'll try to I'll save this recording and make it available to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Talk to you later, Darren.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Bye-bye.